I am delighted to be here at this Congress, and my topic for farewell would be some causes related to cognitive decline and aging that can arise over the years. In the context of orthomolecular medicine and integrative medicine, we can help to, I wouldn't say completely reverse, but certainly slow down or delay this cognitive decline and the risk of dementia that may appear with age. Starting from the age of 30, a significant aging process begins. Starting at the age of 30, we begin to experience what we would call cortical atrophy, which is a decrease in the thickness of the cerebral cortex, and this is closely related to those small memory losses or difficulties in concentration that we might have. From the age of 30, there begins to be an exact increase in calcium, for example, within the cells, within the neurons. This increase in calcium within the neurons would also be related to a possible dysfunction of the nitric oxide cycle, which would ultimately lead to a decrease in ATP synthesis. You see the energy of the cell, the energy of people. The lack of energy at the level of the central nervous system. The most important thing, which is also progressing gradually, is neurodegeneration. Neurodegeneration would be related to a problem of neuroinflammation. That would be the main cause. In fact, we now know that chronic inflammation is one of the underlying factors for the occurrence of aging that is faster than normal. Increased cardiovascular risk, for example. It is also related to brain aging, dementia, and the onset of neurodegenerative pathologies such as Alzheimer or Parkinson, for instance. The causes are also very varied, among which genetics is important, as well as the way we eat and our contact with viruses and bacteria throughout our lives. The way of eating also influences the process of cognitive deterioration or decline. Tobacco, alcohol, and lack of exercise and other factors increase the risk of dementia or cognitive decline. We currently have the ability, in terms of nutritional supplements, to enhance our cognitive activity, to slow cognitive decline, and at the same time to improve the quality of patients. Sometimes what we achieve logically and most importantly is to improve the quality of the patient, enhance the quality of life, the quality of memory, or the quality of the brain of the patient. There are a number of causes that may be related and that should be taken into account. For example, oxidative damage. We know that the brain consumes no less than 80% of the oxygen in our body, and this can lead to an excess of oxidation over the years at the brain level. This excess of oxidation promotes neuroinflammation and cognitive decline. It would be related to a process of brain aging, for example. Chronic inflammation, sustained chronic inflammation, or low-grade inflammation in any part of the body, such as a simple inflammatory process in the mouth or an inflammatory process in another part of our body, can induce an increase in inflammatory cytokines that can easily cross the blood-brain barrier and allow for inflammation at the brain level, resulting in cerebral neuroinflammation. It would be related to processes of brain aging and the risk of dementia as well. At the same time, we have always used fibrinogen as a vascular marker, as a marker of increased microcoagulation, increased blood viscosity, and increased vascular inflammation. But this increase in vascular inflammation, this increase in blood viscosity, and this increase in the risk of microclot formation will allow for the formation of microclots or increase the risk of microclot formation in the brain, which will raise the risk of developing dementias, for example. Homocysteine is also another marker. We always talk about homocysteine as a cardiovascular risk, regardless of other cardiovascular risk markers, but it is especially important in terms of the risk of cerebral thrombosis. That is the most important aspect. It may be more important in terms of neurological risk than as a cardiac risk per se. So homocysteine levels do not only increase in the body with age, but they also rise if we have a deficiency of B vitamins. And taking B vitamins can prevent the process of brain degeneration, reduce cardiovascular risk, and decrease the risk of microthrombi or thrombi at the brain level. Therefore, if homocysteine levels are elevated, it would pose a risk of developing dementia. Hypertension would logically be related to an increased risk of pressure in the cerebral arteries, the risk of rupture of the cerebral arteries, and would increase the risk of dementia. Diabetes, prediabetes, and insulin resistance are all related to vasculitis, inflammation, and would increase the risk of developing dementia. Aging and obesity are two typical factors linked to dementia, as the number of neurons which die over the years does not regenerate, and we have fewer neurons capable of increasing the risk of dementia. At the same time, there are also heavy metals such as mercury and aluminum, which are extremely neurotoxic and cause damage to our neurons and the death of neurons. Aluminum, one of its functions is toxic, is neurotoxic, and increases the oxidation of iron in neurons. So that increase in iron oxidation in the neurons will lead to a higher risk of developing dementia. Hyperthyroidism is another condition that is associated with an increased risk of cardiovascular issues and an increased risk of dementia as well. The antacids used to control stomach acidity cause aging of the capillaries and aging of the endothelium. This aging of the endothelium will increase the normal cardiovascular risk, but it also raises the risk of neurological problems, thereby increasing the risk of dementia. And finally, alcohol is, we would say, the crack. It is one of the most important substances related to dementia pathologies. We have options, we have natural options, we have options in the concept of integrative medicine to help slow down the cognitive decline that will lead to dementia. It would involve our way of eating, basic exercise recommendations, quitting smoking, not drinking alcohol, but it would also include nutraceuticals. Nutraceuticals are micronutrients that are important not only for the brain but for our entire body, as they help improve the immune system, regulate hormones, and enhance cognitive activity. Fish oil is one of the most well-known nutrients for the brain. If we consider that the weight of the brain, when dry, is approximately 70% or 65% depending on the authors, it consists of omega-3. This already highlights the importance of omega-3s or fish oils at the level of the central nervous system. The polyphenols in green tea, for example, the anthocyanins from certain vegetables or fruits, as well as the B vitamins, which we have already mentioned, are very important for controlling homocysteine. There are already a number of publications, mostly in favor, some against or debatable, that tell us that yes, it is important for the prevention and treatment of Alzheimer's, while other publications state that it is not as significant. But really, since dementia is related, among other things, to mitochondrial dysfunction and how Q, like acetylcarnitine, is important for proper mitochondrial function and energy production, we must consider that Q is an antioxidant that would slow down oxidation at the level of the central nervous system and at the same time improve mitochondrial activity. What can we say about Ginkgo Biloba? It is a plant that everyone knows, which improves brain circulation and also enhances the overall circulation of a person. It is used as a treatment for memory loss, for tinnitus, and for floaters, for example. Coenzyme Q is helpful. It is a supportive treatment in this case. Plants such as Ashwagandha, Bacopa, and others are known to be as effective or even more effective than donepezil in patients with Alzheimer's. For example, they inhibit demyelination, which is one of the causes associated with dementia, while simultaneously promoting remyelination. On the other hand, ashwagandha is one of the inexpensive substances with good activity to slow cognitive decline, to slow brain aging, and to slow the overall aging of a person, as it slows down the shortening of telomeres or delays the shortening of telomeres, which is the most important theory regarding aging. For example, dehydroepiandrosterone is also related. It is a male sex hormone, a precursor hormone that we know, but it is a hormone that stimulates the synthesis of testosterone, and low testosterone levels are also related to cognitive decline at the same time. Alpha-lipoic acid and resveratrol are substances that can improve cognitive activity. They are substances we can use, and now we will review how we can utilize them. Fish oil and phospholipids of the cell membrane are important, and it is necessary to maintain a balance in the size of the cell membrane to allow the entry of nutrients and the removal of toxins. We need to ensure the fluidity of the cell membrane, and this can be achieved with omega-3s or fish oil. Polyphenols and anthocyanins, polyphenols. For example, resveratrol, which we mentioned earlier, are known for their anti-aging effects because they can extend lifespan, mimic genetic effects, or stimulate the activity or growth or activation of genes related to halting aging. The revelator keeps the beta amyloid 40 plaque stable, which, if it decreases, is associated with a worsening of patients with Alzheimer's, meaning a process of dementia, with Alzheimer's being the most typical form of dementia that we know. Alpha-lipoic acid easily crosses the blood-brain barrier, acts as a chelator for iron, is a chelator for mercury, and can mobilize these substances to eliminate them from the brain while reducing oxidation. At the level of the central nervous system, it would play an important role in helping to protect against Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. We have already discussed the great importance of B vitamins. It is known that vitamin B, for example, is important for the synthesis of myelin, and that its deficiency would be related to myelin deficiency and brain aging. Also, for example, Q, we have already talked about it. One should take 300 milligrams of coenzyme Q to achieve those protective effects at the level of brain aging and dementia. Acetyl-carnitine is better than regular carnitine. Acetyl-carnitine crosses the blood-brain barrier much more quickly, reaching the brain. Acetyl-carnitine is an energy donor. Acetyl-carnitine has a similar effect to what would be the Q of getting the mitochondria to produce energy, which would allow our brain to function much better. Acetyl-carnitine increases the efficacy of cholinergic neurotransmission, stabilizes mitochondrial membranes, which is important, enhances neural antioxidant defenses, and promotes neuronal growth. We have said that acetyl-carnitine is much more effective than L-carnitine, which is the standard that is used. The Ginkgo Biloba mentioned earlier improves cerebral blood flow, enhances brain oxygenation, and has synergistic effects with other brain-supporting substances such as B vitamins, for example, phosphatidylserine, as well as vitamin E and ginseng, which we will discuss later. Additionally, as I mentioned earlier, ashwagandha has anti-inflammatory and anti-neuroinflammatory effects, and any substance that is anti-neuroinflammatory will help protect the brain from aging, cognitive decline, and ultimately dementia. Magnesium is underutilized. It is mostly used for joint problems, but magnesium is very important for our brain. Magnesium plays an important role because it regulates blood flow at the brain level. It also promotes the detoxification of substances such as alcohol, for example, and certain drugs as well. At the same time, it improves circulation in patients with acute brain injuries, for example, and it would also help with seizure control. Probiotics are not only for the gut, they are very important for many pathologies and the treatment of various conditions. In this case, we would be talking about the brain and improving the functioning of the blood-brain barrier, allowing nutrients and antioxidants to pass through that have the activity of enhancing cognitive function, regulating the gut-brain axis. Ginseng is an oligoelement. It is a mineral, Ginseng is a plant that has a great number of functions. We know little about ginseng or have retained little information, but now we know that ginseng has antioxidant properties, is anti-inflammatory, is anti-apoptotic, and acts as both an immune stimulant and an immune modulator. They are capable of eliminating neuronal toxins and are also capable of delaying neuronal death. At the same time, they inhibit the toxic effects of glutamate, reduce the increase of intracellular calcium, decrease free radicals, and diminish or improve apoptotic events. And with this, I conclude the conference. It has been a bit quick, and I hope you found it interesting. Thank you for your attention. I apologize for not being able to answer the questions you may have.